I'm going to talk a little bit about how you would cite your sources during your speech. Just as you need to cite your sources in a paper, you also need to do it in a speech. But it's going to be a little bit different. And it's going to sound, I'm going to be honest with you, really awkward to say. We know that plagiarism is a violation written and spoken work. So if you're using information that's from another source, it's very important that you give credit to that source. So you're going to make a plan for how to cite your sources in your preparation outline. And then you're going to try to follow that plan during your speech. So let's just take a little look at how you would possibly do that. In a traditional paper, you would use in-text or parenthetical citations. You probably have done this if you've written an essay in English or in a history class or somewhere. But in a speech, that just would not work. So it's important that you plan for this and how you're going to say your source. And this is called orally citing your source. Now, you're going to have some of the same information, but let me take you through and just give you some ideas. It would certainly sound very weird if you were to say an in-text or parenthetical citation out loud. So you want to say your source during your speech a little differently. And generally, as here's a good rule, you want to give your audience enough information about your source so that they can evaluate the credibility of your information. So what would you include? Well, you would want to include the author, the type of source that it is, the title, and the date. Again, enough information to allow your audience to evaluate the credibility of your source. Think back to when we were talking about research and source credibility and those .coms and .orgs and .nets, things that you find on the internet. So in addition to the author, and the author may be the publisher, maybe you're doing something from the American Heart Association. So there's not an author as in maybe a person, but the author would be the American Heart Association. You may say on their website, you'll want to certainly title the source, and if there's a date, provide that. But for some sources, just that is not enough. So we're going to look at some examples so that this makes it a little more clear for you. All right, so let's say that I have found a source. So let's take a look at these couple of examples. According to a May 15th, 2014 article in the New York Times by Martin Dell titled How to Grow Monster Tomatoes. Okay, so this tells us when it was published, where it was published, who the author was, and the title. Now, how do we know that this is credible? Well, we know that the New York Times is considered a journalistic source, and there are certain principles of journalism, despite what you may be hearing or all the talk about fake news. There are journalistic principles that would apply to some of your more reputable journalistic sites, and we would know that this is a topic. Okay. Now we may be saying to ourselves, well, who's Martin Dell? So maybe we would want to find out more information. Maybe we come to learn out that he is the gardening writer for the New York Times. Okay. Another example, as reported on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website, cdc.gov, in an article, Preventing Seasonal Flu with Vaccination. Now maybe there wasn't a date when that was updated, so we can't provide that. But we can say that the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, is a place that we can usually reliably go to get information about diseases. Finally, Jen Christensen, reporting on CNN.com, so it tells us, okay, where we found it, on December 11th, 2014, in an article titled, Predicting the Flu So You Can Avoid It. Okay, again, so we have a news organization. We have the person who reported, the date, and what they were reporting about. So these would all be examples that give us a good piece of information about where you got your source or your information that you used. You want to cite your sources close to when you say it. So I often have students say to me, well, can I just tell everybody at the beginning of the speech what I used or at the end? Nope, the answer is no. Could you do that? Would you do that in an essay? No. Would you do that in a research paper? No. You need to give us the source close to when you say the information. So recommendations I have. You must prepare for your oral citations in your preparation outline. You also want to make them stand out, underline them, bold them, italicize them, make them a different color, whatever it is. One, it allows you to quickly look at that preparation outline before you submit it and make sure, do I have all my oral citation plans in there? And it allows me, the person who's going to read your preparation outline and grade it, to very quickly find your sources and your plan for your oral citation. Now, the only thing you're going to do identical, remember, you do not use that preparation outline to deliver your speech. You will read it to us, and this is not a reading class. But the one thing that you want to do exactly identical from your preparation outline to your delivery or keyword speaking outline is to write those oral citations. Like I said, they are really awkward to say. And so maybe during your speech, you're going to really need to refer to your delivery outline at that point, and that's perfectly okay to do that. And by having them in your preparation outline, remember the preparation outline is what you use to prepare for your speech. You can practice saying them, and the more that you practice something, the better that you get at it. Now, regarding the works cited or the bibliography, that's going to be at the end of your preparation outline, just as it would in a paper. MLA is now calling it references, I think. I don't care what you title it. You can use MLA style, you can use APA style. The Hack Library has some wonderful resources about how to cite sources, and I have no problem with you using EasyBib. Also, remember to put the URL if you got any internet source. You want to make sure to put that URL, even if you get something from a hack database, because that's what signals to me about needing that source evaluation worksheet. Okay, and for the number of sources per speech, be sure to read the assignment requirements carefully. You need to make sure you use the number of sources that are required for the speech. So orally citing your sources are a little bit awkward. With some practice, you can get better at it. I'm not going to say that it's ever going to feel completely natural by the time you leave this class, but it is a very critical part of the speech. When you fail to give credit to the information and where you got the information, that's plagiarism. But for this class and for a speech, and not that it's more important, but equally important, is that it causes you to lose credibility as a speaker. And when you have no credibility as a speaker, it doesn't matter because you're done.